if you want to talk about the people that shouldn't be in this country, you probably need to look in the mirror, because the last time I checked, the Native Americans who Summer ICE have been rounding up, or the Puerto Ricans who are absolutely Americans. Listen, the only people that came and colonized this place are your ancestors, Trump.
Francesca Fiorentini of the Bitchuation Room joins Professor Robin D.G. Kelly to look at a clip of Jasmine Crockett going off about Republicans and their stance on DEI. And, Jasmine Crockett is another one of these Democratic, she's from Texas, members of the House who are not afraid to speak their mind, and she does it with terrific flair. And it's not only true, but it's super entertaining. Francesca and Professor Kelly, talk about it, enjoy it. I want to watch it with you. I'm going to have some thoughts of my own as we go, and then I want to know what you think in the comments. But without further ado, let's check it out.
I just want to play this for you if you hadn't seen it, because it truly was like the moment that made my week. And so this is Jasmine Crockett, Representative Crockett of Texas. And she's been kind of one of these stalwart voices calling out this double standard bullshit. And she's been a fighter out there ever since, bleach blonde, bad built butch body came on the scene. And look, Crockett is one of those people who, I don't know if she's for Medicare for all. I don't know, where she stands on the Green New Deal, but I sure as shit know that she's anti-fascist, that she's against what's going on right now. And I also know she's a black woman in the public eye who is young, who has a fire in her that I think we need more of. And I think this is what I think a lot of leftists who happen to be white guys kind of miss, that this shit matters.
I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel away and why you can't make me doubt who I am? Is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education. This is why they are trying to literally say we won't fund the HBCUs, because they know that if they've already gone after affirmative action and they're saying, you know what, don't allow them to come into, say, these PWIs, as we call them, don't allow them to come into these institutions. We know why they created the HBCUs in the first place. It was because they wouldn't allow us into the white institutions. And so now they're not allowing us in. And now they're saying, we're also going to defund the HBCUs. You know why? Because they don't want any more Kamala Harrises. They don't want any more Jasmine Crockett's. But I got news for them. I don't care what they do. We will fight to the end to make sure that we get our due. Because again, if you want to talk about the people that shouldn't be in this country, you probably need to look in the mirror, because the last time I checked, the Native Americans who Summer ICE have been rounding up, or the Puerto Ricans who are absolutely Americans. Listen, the only people that came and colonized this place are your ancestors, Trump.
I mean, I could watch that on loop for days. It's so good, but maybe
that's the truth.
It's the truth. Just so this, I think where this we have to only focus on economic populism really runs into a little bit of a brick wall here, because the reality is the attack on DEI is about an attack on civil rights and on workers, on all people, on the right to be, employed no matter whether you are disabled or queer or a person of color, and be paid equally. And so I could go on and on and on, but
yeah, that's an excellent point. It's the other thing that they're doing is fundamentally anti-union, right? It's union busting. So it is. I mean, it is certainly everything she said, but it's also anti-labor, just broadly speaking. If you can chip away at, some of the pillars one at a time, then it weakens all of them.
I just, like, we have to understand this fire, her defending Kamala Harris, it doesn't mean she's a centrist, shill, corporate lib. It's because she understands that, like, Black women are scary to white supremacy, and educated Black women are the chupacabra. Like, that's truly, you know, the scariest thing you could possibly imagine as an American white guy, I mean, with power. So, but in terms of the HBCU thing, I thought that was a really interesting point. I don't know, Robin, if you wanted to respond to that or any of it.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to one thing you said, what's being attacked? EEOC. What's being attacked? Well, what are the first affirmative action cases were not really about admissions. They were about jobs, employment. And we have to remember that. And in terms of HBCUs, they've always been underfunded. I mean, I lived through those commercials, you know, mind is a terrible thing to waste, you know, where they're always struggling for money. And still, they've produced some incredible, brilliant minds despite the lack. But the other thing is that what a lot of these white dudes don't understand, working class advocates, is that if you start to defund HBCUs and then you start to defund state universities, then you go after the community colleges, and basically you, as working class white people, you're just out of luck in terms of a college education.
Yeah, there it is again. They talk about it like there's this one evil thing that we just need to get rid of because it's not fair. That's frequently something they say is, you know, this isn't fair. This is racism against whites, right? It's discrimination the other direction. So we just got to stop this one unfair thing and then everything will be cool. But it's not. It's not one thing. It's never one thing. It's a roadmap. So they kill one thing and then they move on to the next thing. There's always got to be a new evil that they have to undo until it is, you know, a theocratic white Christian nationalist autocracy. That sucks, but that's the plan.
And one other thing, just for your viewers may not know this, but a large percentage of students at HBCUs are white students.
I was going to say that. Yeah, there are.
I mean, a large percentage.
Friend of mine.
And so, that's a place where people can get a very fine education. We shouldn't be fighting that stuff. We should be saying free education for all. Right. We should be like, you know, I mean, these are the things we need to struggle over. Not, you know, let's forget about DEI. We could redefine DEI and understand it as a way of restoring excellence to a system that has given us mediocrity.
I agree. I mean, DEI is being held up as the cause of American mediocrity. Like, well, the problem is these DEI programs. Look at this one example I found that I'm painting as being weird or crazy. But the truth of the matter is DEI programs aren't this like bleeding heart left wing, like everybody should have a rainbow and a beautiful wreath of flowers. No, it's an attempt to address the creeping mediocrity. It's really, diversity is part of the American promise, right? It's look, racism and bigotry and this, it's just limiting. It is a natural thing. Our brains we're designed, we've evolved to be clannish and we can only hold so many relationships. So it's understandable to fear the unknown, to fear the other. But it's actually not that hard to overcome it. What really, in my experience, is the best medicine for it is just exposure, right? Just getting to know people who look or talk or think slightly different than you, and in doing that in good faith, you discover how much you have in common, and all the superficial differences just become just that, superficial, and you realize, oh, how limiting is that? Now, I'm as subject to it as the next person, right? I'm not some like guru of enlightenment, but I do have experience in some years under my belt of realizing that these beliefs I've had since I was a kid and where I grew up and everything are it's just nonsense. It's just the cover of the book, and it doesn't necessarily indicate anything. It just ends up being a limitation in my life. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments.